That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
Thought I would win against Anthony, but here I am with a broken jaw, learning the hard way. I'll heal, and I'll be back.
Jake Paul collapsed on December 19th, and Dana White's long-standing warnings were brutally validated. One clean punch in round 6 exposed the vast gap between influencer hype and true heavyweight reality. What unfolded in Miami was not just a loss, but consequence. The moment Jake Paul's boxing myth finally shattered.
6, 7, 8, 9.
1 second, the Kaseya Center in Miami was roaring. The next, it fell completely silent. Anthony Joshua's right hand landed in the 6th round and did more than knock Jake Paul down. It erased the room.
Bro, he got hit with a bomb, a right-hand bomb.
When the cameras caught his face, the realization was clear. This wasn't a slip, it wasn't bad luck, and it wasn't something he could laugh off later. Minutes earlier, Jake Paul paced confidently, shoulders loose, feeding off the spotlight. Minutes later, medics surrounded him. His jaw shattered, the fight over, the narrative undone. That sudden reversal is why the moment hit so hard. This wasn't just a loss, it marks the collapse of a carefully protected illusion.
Look, that guy did great for someone who's been boxing for like less than a decade. He has had no real professional opponents other than Tommy Fury.
Jake Paul didn't arrive here by accident. His boxing career was carefully engineered, step by step. Opponents were selected, weight classes managed. Early on, he avoided true threats, choosing names that generated attention without maximum risk. Older fighters, smaller opponents, athletes outside boxing. The strategy worked. 12 wins, 7 knockouts, millions convinced he was legitimate. Media played along, influencers amplified it, and critics were brushed off as bitter or jealous.
Boxing is not a game. Fighting is not something you pick up and mess around with, right? If you're a fighter, if you're a boxer, if you're a mixed martial artist, right, you have to take this seriously and you have to respect the game.
But that system only works when every variable stays controlled. Jake always fought on his own terms. Size mattered, weight mattered, experience gaps mattered. For a long time, those realities were hidden behind highlight reels and confidence. The real danger was never a single opponent. It was believing the hype could travel, that success built in controlled conditions would survive against a full-sized elite heavyweight. Anthony Joshua shattered that belief. This was not a crossover experiment or a novelty event. Joshua entered as what he has always been, a professional heavyweight with 26 knockouts and real consequences attached. He didn't need hype or trash talk. From the opening rounds, the gap was unmistakable. Jake Paul wasn't boxing, he was surviving, clinching, grabbing, trying to slow a fight he couldn't control. The speed, timing, and power were overwhelming, and the ending was inevitable.
Counter right. There's the right hand. Jake Paul goes down again. Man, he's tired. He needs to keep moving them feet like he was in the early rounds, but it's hard to do that. Right uppercut.
Joshua stayed calm. He didn't rush. He didn't chase a viral moment. He waited. In the 5th round, the warning shots arrived. Jake went down, then again, each knockdown peeling away another layer of confidence. The 6th round wasn't dramatic. It was inevitable. One clean right hand, perfect timing, perfect placement, gravity doing the rest.
Best shot at the moment. Not that much is going to happen. And it almost... Oh, there's a left hook.
And when Jake stayed down, the numbers told a brutal story. It was the first knockout loss of his career and the 2nd defeat overall, dropping his record to 12 wins and 2 losses. Anthony Joshua, meanwhile, moved on with his 29th victory and 26th knockout, as if it were just another routine night at work. Jake left with far more than a loss. He left with a shattered jaw, surgery, hospitalization, and weeks confined to a liquid diet. Decisions can be debated. Scorecards can be argued. Bone damage cannot be spun.
That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. But let me tell you what, a lot of people will watch that one.
Will you watch it?
Sure. You know what everybody's tuning in for on that one. I think everybody's going to get what they've finally been waiting for.
That's where Dana White enters the story, not as a promoter or a commentator, but as the one who predicted this outcome long before the opening bell. He didn't soften his stance or keep it private. He called the fight a bad idea and warned that Jake was stepping into a level he didn't truly understand. At the time, those comments were dismissed. People said Dana was bitter, threatened by influencer boxing, but after the knockout, he didn't need to say anything at all. The silence and the quiet smirk said enough. This wasn't personal, it was predictable.
Fight for a second. It happened in the 6th round, and it happened in a 22-foot ring. A typical ring is 20 foot. This one was 22 foot because he wanted a bigger room to operate, a bigger space, a bigger ring, somewhere to...
The part that stings the most for Jake Paul? This wasn't bad luck. The fight didn't just reveal a gap in skill, it exposed a gap in understanding. Boxing isn't a game you level up in with confidence alone. It doesn't care about followers, hype, or branding. It only cares about what happens when two people face off, and one has spent decades mastering the craft at the highest level. Jake Paul, and everyone watching, learned that the hard way.
He did get tired, and there was a lot of clinching, but the clinching was from Jake Paul, from him shooting, from him actually getting double underhooks, from him doing anything he could when Anthony Joshua moved forward to stop the punches being thrown.
The fight didn't truly end when the referee waved it off. That's what most people miss. The bell didn't save Jake Paul. The count didn't undo the damage. The real consequences hit afterward, when adrenaline faded and reality arrived in the form of paperwork, x-rays, and doctors who couldn't care less about Instagram followers. Broken jaw, hospital bed, surgery. This isn't something you laugh off in a post-fight vlog. It's your body formally filing a complaint against your ego. Overnight, the tone changed. Trash talk vanished. Tweets slowed. The same guy who once narrated every moment of his career went quiet, because when your jaw is wired shut and you're sipping meals through a straw, confidence hits differently. This wasn't a black eye or a bruised rib. It was a stark reminder that when you face a real heavyweight, the consequences don't stop when the cameras cut. Influencer bravado looks impressive in press conferences. It looks very different in a hospital gown.
Right? This is a crazy shout. He lost because he was smaller. He lost because of the size difference. He also lost because he had no business being in there with him. Anthony Joshua is by far a better boxer. Of course he is. You know this. Watch it. Every one of you watching this knows that.
That contrast is what made the moment hit so hard. Just hours earlier, Jake was pacing, smiling, soaking up attention. Now he was surrounded by medical staff, listening to recovery timelines. That's why this loss landed differently. Fans can laugh at a decision loss. They can meme a knockdown, but broken bones and surgery aren't entertainment. They're accountability, boxing's version of a receipt. Meanwhile, Dana White was dealing with something else entirely, being right. He didn't jump into the conversation after the knockout. He'd been warning about this fight long before gloves touched. He called it a bad idea publicly, bluntly saying Jake was stepping into a situation he didn't belong in. At the time, people brushed it off, calling Dana salty, claiming he hated influencer boxing, or that he was intimidated by Jake's popularity.
And Jake Paul couldn't do anything to him. He made a ton of money, and I know people are mad you stayed home on a Saturday night, but you didn't pay for it.
Then the punch landed, and Dana didn't celebrate. He didn't rant or go on a victory tour. He just smiled. That quiet, almost bored smirk said more than any interview ever could. Dana didn't need to say, "I told you so." The footage did it for him. Years of criticism about Jake's boxing legitimacy suddenly looked less like hate and more like foresight. This wasn't Dana beating Jake Paul, it was reality validating Dana's argument in high definition. Symbolically, influencer marketing ran headfirst into boxing physics and lost. What made it sting was that Dana didn't exaggerate. He didn't hype the danger, he simply understood it, having spent enough time around real fighters to know what happens when belief outruns ability.
Just box someone your own size, not a 35er, not a super heavyweight, not a two-time world champion, okay, or a gold medalist at the Olympics. Fight a cruiserweight.
And that's where things begin to unravel mentally for Jake Paul. Because physical healing is one thing, but psychological recovery is far tougher. After the fight, Jake claimed he wobbled, and Joshua said he won rounds. That's human. It's the denial phase. But his body language told a different story. The slow walk, the distant stare, the words spoken without his usual sharp edge. You could see it. Something had shifted.
It wasn't the best performance. It wasn't the best. The end goal was to get Jake Paul, pin him down and hurt him. That has been the request leading up, and that was on my mind. It took a bit longer than expected, but the right hand finally found a destination. Now, Jake Paul, he's done really well tonight. I want to give him his props. He got up time and time again.
This was Jake Paul's first knockout loss. Losing a decision damages a record, but getting knocked out changes how you see yourself. It forces questions you can't algorithm away. Jake has always been able to control the narrative. New opponent, new angle, new storyline. But when you're put away like that, there's no reroute. The difference between losing and being stopped is massive. A decision loss lets you argue. A knockout shuts the conversation down. Your ego doesn't just take a hit, it fractures. Suddenly, shortcuts don't seem clever. Risks feel real. And suddenly, the sport stops feeling like content and starts feeling like combat. That shift didn't just affect Jake, it rippled outward. Logan Paul felt it too. Before the fight, Logan was loud, confident, riding the wave like always. After the knockout, that energy vanished because the Paul brand has always been about control. Controlled chaos, controlled narratives, controlled risk. For the first time, they lost control completely. You can't edit hospital footage. You can't spin a broken jaw. You can't shield your brother from physics. That's when the spectacle turns personal. And that's the quiet fallout nobody expected. The moment when everyone, from fans to promoters, had to ask a serious question. How far is too far? This wasn't entertainment gone wrong. It was a reality check delivered at heavyweight speed. Once that door opens, you can't close it again. Jake Paul didn't just lose a fight. He lost the illusion that the rules bend forever. And once that illusion breaks, every step forward feels heavier.
I need to give this guy a systematic breakdown. I know what type of fighter he is, and I said I'm going to take his soul, and I said I'm going to see it leaving his body round after round, and when the time comes, some people are just there to get knocked out. And I said it, and that's exactly what happened.
This fight quietly ended the notion of safe crossover boxing. The unspoken rule was always clear. Influencers play around the edges, not in the deep end. Jake Paul crossed that line, and Anthony Joshua made sure no one forgot it. This wasn't hype meeting hype, it was hype crashing into a level it couldn't reach. Overnight, promoters grew cautious, fighters became wary, and fans stopped laughing. Real boxers don't need influencer money badly enough to risk becoming the next headline. Jaw wired shut, brand questioned. That single knockout sent a chill through crossover combat sports. For Jake, there were no clean exits left. The record is permanent. First knockout loss, second overall defeat, no rematch leverage, no moral win. Fans are split between sympathy and "we warned you." Sponsors scrutinize more closely. Opponents hesitate. Credibility suddenly carries a price. The final truth is simple. Boxing doesn't care about followers. Dana White didn't beat Jake Paul. Reality did. Anthony Joshua didn't just win a fight. He enforced a boundary. This wasn't a scandal. This was gravity.